Look, that guy over there. Seriously, how creepy. I could hear the whispers of the female employees and involuntarily shrank back. My name is Adam. Today, I'm set to meet the female CEO of a rival company. Can't believe it. How can he come to see our CEO? With every step across the floor, I could hear the cold whispers of the female staff, and it made me wonder if I'd done something wrong. But if I hadn't acted back then, who knows what would have become of this company's CEO? People can complain all they want. I haven't done anything wrong. Repeating this to myself, I found myself standing in front of the CEO's office. It all started a few weeks back. Our company and Red Rose Inc., a rival, decided to collaborate on a product. The company I work for primarily designs and sells shoes for men. While we do have a women's shoe design department, in terms of quality and popularity, we lagged far behind Red Rose Inc. That's when they approached us for a collaboration. What's more, the collaborative product idea came from the CEO of Red Rose Inc. herself. My manager told me the CEO of Red Rose Inc. had fallen in love with the shoe I designed. She specifically requested that I design a pair of high heels. Until now, I have only designed men's shoes. Can I even design high heels that would satisfy women? While in doubt, I paid a visit to Red Rose Inc. Their building was impressive, with large glass walls, white marble floors, and such a dazzling aura that I almost expected to hear shimmering sound effects. The receptionists, all seated prominently on the ground floor, were all stunningly beautiful. "Hello, welcome to Red Rose Inc. How may I help you?" A chirpy voice greeted me, and when I introduced myself as Adam, she responded with, Adam, we've been expecting you, please follow me." She flashed a warm smile and began to walk. Following her, I could hear the distinct sound of her heels on the marble. Everywhere I looked, stylish women wearing high heels dominated the scene, making me feel slightly out of place. Not many male employees here, huh? Yeah. This place doesn't seem too comfy for guys. Trying to make small talk, I made that comment, and the receptionist replied with a nod. I laughed awkwardly, thinking that must be the secret to their success in women's shoes. I've heard rumors, but Red Rose Inc. really is dominated by women, huh? Yes. Our company's motto is to create a workplace where women feel most comfortable. I absolutely love working here. She gave me her brightest smile. Upon reaching the top floor in the elevator and entering the CEO's office, I saw a beautiful display of women's shoes. In the center of the room, a woman was admiring a pair of those shoes. That's the CEO of Red Rose Inc., Mrs. Mary Johnson. "It's nice to meet you." "Oh, you are already here." When I called out to her, she looked surprised, then gave me a warm smile. That smile made my heart skip a beat. "Please, have a seat over here. I'll get some tea ready." "Thank you." Urged by the president, I took a seat on the sofa. The president returned, carrying a tray with a rather expensive-looking tea set. The tea poured from the teapot had a delightful aroma, and even with my limited knowledge, I could tell this wasn't just any ordinary tea. "Here you go. It's minty. I hope you like it." "Thank you." My boss wouldn't even make coffee for himself to drink. It felt like we were worlds apart. As I marveled at the elegance, she presented a sketchbook. It had a detailed drawing of the shoes I designed. "What is this?" "Actually, I've been sketching your shoes as part of my research. They have a simple design that doesn't strain the feet, and surprisingly, they match any outfit. They might not be flashy, but they're versatile. I would like to create shoes that look good on anyone and stand out wherever they go. That's my goal." "That's wonderful." Her eyes lit up. Maybe I got a bit carried away by her enthusiasm and said something slightly embarrassing. Just as I thought that, she took my hand and squeezed it firmly. "Please design shoes for our company. They don't have to be flashy. Shoes that look good on anyone, no matter what they wear." She seemed a bit excited, her voice raised. It's a privilege to work with someone like that. However, I still had some concerns. I couldn't let them go unspoken, so I voiced my concerns. Your company is popular among women for its shoes. I believe you have many talented designers who understand women's desires. We do have a lot of talented designers, but their sensibilities don't align with the current concept. They only look at selected people. They think only beautiful women should enjoy fashion. There was a time I too pursued beauty above all, but that's not enough. Every woman has the right to enjoy fashion. I recalled the stylish women I saw on my way to the president's office and found myself nodding in agreement. When I asked them to design shoes that would fit any woman, they scoff, saying it's the fault of those who don't make an effort to look beautiful. That's pretty harsh. I felt a bit sorry for the downcast CEO. No matter how beautiful someone is, making such a statement is off-putting. So, why did you choose me? Your shoes are wonderful. They have a charm that we lack. Shoes that anyone can wear and feel stylish. Your shoes have given me back my passion, which I had almost lost. The smiling president looked very attractive. Who wouldn't be motivated by such praise? All right, let's create the best shoes together. I replied with a smile, and she beamed back at me. Little did we know then that a huge commotion was about to unfold. A few days later, I visited the Red Rose for another meeting with Mary. Mary, it's Adam. Upon reaching her office and knocking on the door, I felt something was off. Usually, Mary would greet me with enthusiasm, but there was no reply. Sorry, coming in. With a feeling of unease, I entered her office and found Mary lying face up on the floor. Mary, I rushed to her, but she didn't move an inch. Hoping against hope, I placed my ear to her chest, but there was no heartbeat. I felt the blood drain from my face. My hands were shaking, but I remembered the AED training I had during a certification course and quickly called the secretary's desk. What? Mary's collapsed. Please call an ambulance right now, and if there's an AED, bring it. I quickly instructed the secretary on the phone and tried CPR on Mary. But her heart didn't budge. Darn it, is it too late? Sorry, I've brought it. The secretary arrived with the AED. Thank you, Mary, I'm so sorry. As I lifted Mary's clothing to attach the AED, the secretary nearby exclaimed, "Oh my," and covered her face with her hands, blushing deeply. But there was no time to worry about that. I immediately attached the AED to Mary's chest and activated it, causing her body to jolt with a loud zap. Still, there was no change. Panicking, I followed the AED's voice instructions and activated it again. After another loud jab, Mary started breathing with difficulty. Mary, are you okay? Please don't move." After confirming her breathing, I gently covered her with my coat. Just as I was about to ask the anxious secretary if the ambulance was on its way, I heard sirens. "Can you show the paramedics in when they arrive?" "Yes." She rushed out of the room to guide them. Later, Mary was transported to the state hospital. Mary later contacted me to say that she had a pre-existing heart condition and had collapsed after a seizure. Thanks to the quick response, she was told she could be discharged soon without any lingering effects. Hearing that, I breathed a sigh of relief. However, the next day, "Adam, what on earth have you done?" Waiting for me as I arrived at the office was the manager with a displeased look on his face. I was summoned first thing in the morning and yelled at, but I had no idea what it was about. I haven't done anything. There was a request from Red Rose to cancel the current collaboration project. Is it because Mary collapsed? No, they say it's because you did something inappropriate to Mary. Inappropriate? Hearing that made me think of the previous day's event. I had indeed lifted Mary's shirt to use the AED. But that was to save Mary's life. I didn't do it with any guilty conscience. So, I hear you lifted Mary's shirt to use the AED. They're suggesting you might have done that just because you wanted to. That's outrageous. Anyway, Mary needs to rest now. Reflect deeply on this and stay away from Red Rose. I was so frustrated, I clenched my back teeth. Mary and I had gone through numerous meetings over the past few weeks, tweaking the design I came up with. To think it was all for nothing. Please, I'll do anything to avoid canceling this collaboration. Can't you help me convince them? I bowed my head, hoping at least to clear up the misunderstanding, and the manager let out a big sigh. What are you talking about? Even if the AED incident hadn't happened, the collaboration couldn't go on after Mary collapsed. This project needs her personal supervision. But Mary's direction is already reflected at this point. If I take the lead, understanding her will and the purpose of the collaboration, I can see it through. I remembered how she smiled when she saw my design drawings. I am sure she will be the saddest if the project falls through here. I just couldn't let that happen. Even so, it's a request from them. There's nothing I can do. This can't be. The manager turned his back on me to end the conversation. Just then, his cell phone rang. Who could that be at this time? At Mary. He stood up with a loud noise, taking the call in a flustered manner. Yes, so the project will continue, correct? Understood. I nervously paced, overhearing the conversation and seeing the manager nodding profusely on the phone. When he finished the call, he turned to me with a beaming smile. It seems there was a misinformation. Mary just called to say the collaboration will continue. Good for you. Really. I was so relieved by the manager's words that I lost strength in my legs and sat down right there. But is Mary really okay? And how did this misinformation happen? A wave of anxiety swept over me. Looks like we'll be resuming our meetings tomorrow. Can you make it to Red Rose? Yes. Despite a touch of unease, I was thrilled that the project was back on track. The next day, I'm glad you could make it. I'm really sorry for the trouble I've caused. I had no idea my chronic condition would flare up like that. No, not at all. I'm just relieved that you're safe. As I entered the CEO's office, as usual, Mary was the first to apologize. But really, I'm the one who should be apologizing. Even though it was a misinformation, there must have been real concerns about the AED incident and suggestions to scrap the project altogether. Despite the emergency, I had caused her trouble. I'm truly sorry about the AED incident. It seems some of our employees were upset. Upset because you saved me. I was taken aback when Mary showed her anger and then made a call to someone inside the company. So, the project mishap wasn't just a misinformation, was it? Gather everyone in the hall immediately. I have something to say directly. Gone was her usual calm demeanor. I was shocked by the sight of Mary raising her voice. Sorry, I need to take care of something. Should I? I'll be back in about an hour. Can you wait for me? Yes, of course. Mary left the room with a look of apology on her face. Months later. We did it. We finally succeeded. We had managed to create a prototype of the high heels. The heels were modest in height, and we used a beautiful wine red color. They're beautiful. I've always wanted something like this. Mary sighed dreamily as she looked at the shoes on display. She really does love shoes. That day, Mary held an urgent staff meeting to clear up the misunderstanding about me regarding the AED. She explained that I hadn't lifted her clothes with any ill intent. I was quite surprised when some employees apologized to me after the meeting, but I was glad the misunderstanding was cleared. They were probably just jealous of your talent. You think so? I wonder if I'm really such a talented designer to be envied. I don't know about that, but what's certain is that shoes must be designed with the wearer in mind. Maybe they just didn't understand that essential point. Would you like to try on the prototype? It's exactly your size. Really? Mary's face lit up at my offer. She took off her black pumps and slipped on the wine red high heels on display. Wow, These are much more comfortable than they look. Watching her walk around the room in the high heels, I felt relieved that this project had finally come together. There's a mountain of work ahead, like planning the sales strategy and advertising, but I believe we can overcome it together. I want to see her smile more. With that thought, I psyched myself up internally. Hey, old man, do you know what I called you in today? After lunch break, I was immediately summoned by my director, Anderson. I headed straight to the CEO's office, which had recently changed hands. I'm sorry, did I make a mistake? In this company, there's no job suitable for old-timers like you, so you don't have to come in from tomorrow. It took me a moment to comprehend, but I had just been fired. I have been with this company since my 20s, making it 35 years. Suddenly, I was out of work. Anderson often pointed out my lack of urgency and slowness in my work. I always tried to work meticulously, keeping the company's relationships in mind. Was that my downfall? Feeling the weight of the unfairness, I realized I needed to find a new job ASAP. At that time, I hadn't even considered the possibility of retaliating against Anderson or the CEO. My name is David. I'm a designer and 50-something years old. Just 3 years ago, I lost my wife and have been living alone ever since. To drown my loneliness, I dove deeper into my work than ever before. In this digital age, it might be uncommon, but I design using paints and paper. My work was highly appreciated by the previous CEO and our clients. However, it seemed Anderson wasn't a fan. He would often badmouth me when the CEO wasn't around. When the previous CEO passed away unexpectedly, a new, younger CEO took over. He was keen on introducing new technologies and phased out the old ones. Anderson, being close to the CEO, seemed to be completely on board with these modern ideas. I felt he was desperate to catch up with the modern way of thinking. From now on, we will switch all operations to computer-based systems. Since the day that was announced, using paint for designs was prohibited, and instead, we were to use computer software. I've been in this industry for nearly 30 years, but I've hardly ever designed using software. My knowledge was equivalent to that of a student fresh out of school. I regretted not having studied this earlier. Admitting my mistake, I started studying design software every day from then on. There were people in their 20s, fresh out of college, at the company, and I managed to learn a lot from them, eventually acquiring enough skill to do my job. The move to this policy was due to the young, 30-something second-generation CEO wanting to take on what's currently trending. I was the only one in this department who was a beginner at using design software, so the looks from Anderson stung a bit. At first, I was making design corrections for my subordinates as a form of study, but gradually I started to receive my own work. Having been in the industry for so long, I felt confident that once I had the knowledge, I could create designs that would not be inferior to the younger generation. However, it seemed like Anderson didn't think too highly of my work. "You're a bit too slow. People younger than you are faster, so get it together." "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm still not quite up to speed." "Make sure you do. We can't give you much work because the quality isn't there yet." "I'm sorry." Conversations like this happened at least once a day. A subordinate who had seen this told me not to worry and to ask them anything, which was a relief. But being rushed every day made me panic and rapidly lose confidence. Maybe this job isn't for someone my age, as retirement is nearing. I thought about taking early retirement. I was living with those thoughts. One day, we received a request from a long-standing client company. They wanted a design made with paint. However, our company mandated the use of computer software. I wanted to take on the request to meet the client's needs. I decided to discuss it once with Anderson. "Anderson, I have a consultation. A client has requested a design using paint, and I'm asking for permission just this once to create without using software." "Huh, what are you talking about? Didn't we mandate the use of software for everything recently? But there is a certain demand for this. We have maintained a long relationship with this client, and to continue working with them, that's impossible. This is why old people are not useful. Can't you see that analog is behind the times? Didn't the CEO say so? The area is digital. AI might even come into play soon. If you can't keep up, it's impossible for you to stay in this industry. I have learned the software knowledge from the juniors. Depending on the time and situation, I can use either. Is that still not good enough? You're a stubborn old man. Just give up." I was practically thrown out of the CEO's office. Lately, Anderson have been clinging to the CEO, doing whatever he said. After that, I attempted to negotiate with Anderson several times, but to no avail. It's about time I get back to the client with a response. One day, I was summoned to the CEO's office by Anderson. By then, I had almost no work left, so I had a rough idea of what would be discussed. Upon arrival, I bowed deeply. The CEO sat in his chair, looking down on me with that familiar condescending gaze. I recognized that face. People make the same face when they're pushing you away. To be honest, I don't remember much of what Anderson and I discussed after entering the room. However, one sentence resonated strangely in my mind. "You don't have to come from tomorrow." Yes. Thank you for everything until now. Within half a year after the change to the second-generation CEO, I was out of a job. And not just any exit, I was fired. It was a good thing my wife wasn't around anymore to see this. If I showed myself like this, it would be embarrassingly unbearable. I felt so pitiful and, without saying a word to anyone, I left the company. To the juniors who taught me about the software and the clients, I felt sorry, but I lacked the courage to express my gratitude or apologize. Since I was technically fired, I guess unemployment benefits would kick in immediately. However, I wanted to work right away. I feared if I continued to feel this sad, I might even fall. That was on my mind. But I often wondered, as Anderson used to say, is there really a place that would hire an old man like me? I had experience as a designer, but I worried if my inability to use the software would be a stumbling block again. Despite the anxiety, I sent out resumes to various companies. Design, customer service, wholesale, clerical work. I must have sent out nearly 20 resumes. Only 5 companies called me for an interview, and just one progressed to the final round. And that one company was a rival of my former employer. I had no expectations of getting the job. "You've certainly got the know-how. I had a look at the designs you've been working on, and they are all meticulously made and easy on the eyes. I'd really love for you to work with us. What do you say?" "Really? Absolutely. I'd love to work with you." "Then, how about starting a week from now? And I'd like you to show our newcomer the ropes on how to design the old-fashioned way." Thank you so much. It felt so good to be recognized for my skills again. I was going to be a designer once more. A month had passed since I joined the company, and I was getting the hang of things, albeit slowly. Then something shocking happened. On my first payday at this company, my take-home pay had nearly increased by $2,000. It's a bit crass to say, but this company pays incredibly well, I muttered under my breath, and Sam laughed heartily. "That's because you're incredibly skilled, David. I don't know how much you made at your last job, but you're a special talent that would thrive anywhere." I felt a bit bashful but very happy. While learning the ropes and earning praise from both my juniors and Sam, I wondered if I was truly becoming an asset to the team. That's when my phone rang. It was Anderson. I hesitantly answered, only to be greeted with an angry tirade. "As a professional and an adult, you're disqualified. Everyone's in trouble because of you. Please, calm down. What happened?" "There's no time for what happened. You left the job without handing anything over. We have none of the client information or past data. That's because I was told to leave on the day, and there wasn't any time. Such poor excuses. What have you done to us? Send over the handover data within 2 days. You're unemployed and free right now, right? Thanks in advance. The call ended abruptly, with the responsibility unilaterally pushed onto me. What would Anderson think if he knew I was working for a rival company? I had new assignments at my current job and needed to start on them immediately. I was troubled and decided to consult with Sam. Sam, sorry to bother you. I just got a call from my previous workplace, and they urgently requested that I send over handover documents. I'm considering stepping out for about 2 hours to take care of this. That's fine, but you've already left that place, and it wasn't on the best of terms, right? Yes, that's true. It's really up to you, David. It's hard to have confidence sometimes, but you should have confidence at a good level because you are doing a great job. Deep down, I knew I didn't have to do this. But it became certain after his words. Thank you, I'll stay put today. After our conversation, Sam gave me a warm smile and went back to his work. That day, I didn't touch the handover documents. With that, I had completely severed ties with my former company. Sorry for the sudden call. This is John. Do you remember me? About a month had passed since I'd ignored Anderson's calls and cut off contact when John, a former junior of mine, reached out. Wary that he might have been prompted by Anderson, I nervously answered the call to hear an obviously flustered voice. Yes, I remember you. I'm sorry for quitting so abruptly and causing trouble. What happened today? No worries at all. You left because of the CEO and the director, right? We've been having some troubles. From what I've heard, it seems like employees in their 40s and 50s, other than myself, are being laid off across the board. It's like the company is now being run by the remaining younger employees. Moreover, there have been a lot of problems because there wasn't a proper handover. We actually just lost a major client, and the CEO is on edge. Plus, there seems to be a lot of inadequate communication between departments, leading to missed deadlines. What should I do? I suggested that such coordinating tasks should be left to a supervisor, since he's a new recruit and doesn't bear that much responsibility yet, trying to console him a bit. Then he replied with some difficulty. The thing is, I'm the leader. After all the senior staff resigned, the CEO told me that young people need to step up in this new era and that I should become a leader to incorporate their perspectives. John sounded utterly despondent. He's a rookie who just joined this year. Even I, not the strongest-willed person, can tell something is off. Still, I felt resistance to the idea of protesting directly to the CEO or the director. From what I've heard about his workload, it seems he's been burdened with a lot. Departmental coordination, visiting clients, dealing with older employees, meetings with the CEO. This could break him. He taught me how to use some design software. I wanted to help him, partly as a thank you. When I asked him what was the biggest challenge right now, he said, "There's this client you used to handle, and it looks like we're going to lose their contract. The CEO has said that's the one thing he wants to keep at all costs, but honestly, with the current management strategy, it seems unlikely. Indeed, the client I used to manage favored designs using traditional paints and paper. I'm at my limit. I've tried to hold on for 6 months, but I can't keep this up. But I'm the leader, and there are seniors here. He seems to be considering quitting. Something has to be done before his spirit breaks." I had an idea that I decided to share with John. At first, he was surprised, but it seemed like he gradually took in what I was saying. Thank you for listening. Thanks to you, David, I've made up my mind. I owe a lot to you, John. Come talk to me anytime if you need to. I'll be waiting. With that, I hung up the phone. I hope I can be of some help to John. Today was the day I had taken the morning off. I woke up to a surprise. I had over 10 missed calls from private numbers. It could even be over 30. I called back with some trepidation, and my bad feeling was confirmed. "You're late. What did you tell John? Because of you, everything is ruined." It was rare to hear Anderson so flustered on the phone. What on earth happened? I did, in fact, share some information with John. That's true. John took unscheduled leave today. He's not answering emails or calls, and when we checked his desk, there was a note in the corner saying going to David's place. His actions were so swift, I was taken aback. I had simply offered to introduce him to my current workplace if he wanted. Of course, I told him that I couldn't guarantee he would get an interview. "How are you going to make this right? We have deadlines for various projects coming up. This is all your fault. I'll sue you." The word sue made me flinch, and just as I was about to respond, I heard an employee call out for Anderson. There were also sounds of phones ringing, footsteps. It seems like things might be quite chaotic. As I was casually pondering this, the phone abruptly hung up. I've always had trouble digesting Anderson's words. They have a certain edge to them. But I'm different from how I used to be. Half a year into my new company, I've gained a lot of confidence. If someone asked what the heck the old man was rambling about, I'd be at a loss for words, but it seems like I've managed to grow not just technically, but emotionally as well. I don't think this is my fault, but the word sue still lingers in my mind. I decided to consult with Sam about it. In the afternoon, I went to work as usual. And there, talking happily with Sam, was a young man with a familiar face. "Ah, David, thank you for everything. I really owe you one for all you did for me at the previous company, and thank you so much for the other day. It's great to see you're doing well. I heard from Anderson. Did you quit abruptly? Has that gotten out? I'm embarrassed. I guess I've failed as a professional." "Not at all, John. It's your life. If you've hit your limit, it's okay to run away. But what were you planning to do if you didn't pass this interview?" "Well, I would have winged it." Such a typically youthful response. I really like that way of thinking. Come to think of it, he's here for an interview, isn't he? I wonder if he passed. Feeling a bit anxious, I glanced at Sam. After a moment of silence, Sam grinned and formed a big circle with his hands above his head. I felt relieved and the tension left my shoulders. Later, John asked me what I knew he had quit, so I told him honestly about what happened that morning. "John quit because of me. They said they would sue. I wonder, will I be sued?" Sam looked dumbfounded for a moment, but soon returned to his usual smile and assured me that based on what I and John had been through, there was no chance for the other side to win, so I should rest easy. "From what you've told me, it sounds like what they are doing is wrongful termination. Maybe we have the stronger case. Be confident. By the way, was the CEO always that kind of person?" Sam reminisced about the times our companies collaborated and when we once went out for drinks. The CEO he spoke of seemed gentle and calm, which brought back nostalgic feelings. That might be the father, the first-generation CEO. It changed to the second generation after he passed away. Really, I thought something was off since they seemed like completely different people. I see now. I have a feeling that company won't last another few months. Actually, 3 of my colleagues who joined as fresh graduates also resigned today, and my current boss said he's resigning too. It's unforgivable for them to let the company that their father worked so hard to maintain go bankrupt. All right, next time they contact you, let me handle it. I'll give them a piece of my mind. Right after he said that, Sam's cell phone rang and he swiftly left the room. Honestly, I had a hunch that the company was on the brink of bankruptcy. Just young employees with limited work experience are starting new ventures and building relationships with various companies. That's no easy feat. While pondering this, chatting with John, my phone rang. It was a blocked number. I immediately answered the call, and I could hear Anderson's voice, almost like a scream, at a high volume. John seemed very surprised by it too. "Hey, sort this mess out. I've been dealing with one thing after another since morning, and we're short-staffed. I've resigned as well. There's nothing I can do. Aren't you unemployed? You can at least show up and lend a hand. When else are you going to look cool, old man? We must have repeated such an exchange for about 5 minutes. I was considering hanging up when I heard a rather loud voice from the side. I've been listening quietly up till now. What kind of way is that to ask for help? That's no way to talk to people. Who's the real adult here? After a moment of silence, John let out all he had been holding back, yelling into the phone. Then Anderson started speaking in a shaky voice. John, is that you, John? Please, I'm not angry. Come back. The CEO is waiting. We need you. He muttered to himself, but John clearly said, no. Anderson then spoke in a disheartened voice. Are you saying, even if I get fired, the company can't run without me? I'm young, not an old man, so I won't be fired. It seemed he was afraid of being fired. He has a middle school-aged child. He must be worried. But he's 49, just 4 years younger than me. To the second-generation CEO, he must seem like an old man. Look, if you continue the contract with the client David used to handle, I'll tell the CEO to give you a raise immediately. So, won't you come back? About that client, they've just signed a contract with our company. It seems Anderson and John's loud voices were overheard by Sam. He relayed the facts, as if discarding them. When I had spoken with John on the phone, I had asked him to let my former client know where I was if he was coming to this company for an interview. Who the heck are you, outsiders? Get out. I'm talking to John here. Anderson, buddy. I think we've met before, don't you remember? It was back when the previous CEO was around. We had a drink together. I'm Sam Smith. You seemed so genuine at the drinking party. Was that just for show? When Anderson remembered Sam, he lost his cool big time. He was probably shocked that an outsider, and from a competing company no less, had seen his true nature, not to mention that I and John were there at the rival firm. What am I supposed to say to the CEO? At this point, I don't care if it's David anymore. I'll hire you again, so come over to our place right now. The next moment, Anderson was getting called out on his choice of words by Sam. Anderson was still confused, and all the chaos around footsteps, phones ringing, sounds of apologies was audible over the phone. David, I'm sorry. All right. Please come back. You can stay forever this time. Can you pay me 10 times the salary? What? I could hear the life go out of his voice. Anderson probably believed I'd come back because I was timid. But now, I have a place at Sam's company. There's nothing to fear. 10 times? What are you talking about? You know our company doesn't have that kind of money, right? If you can't pay, then it's impossible. Please do your best as you are. I'm getting about twice the salary you guys are at my current company. I have no intention of coming back. Anderson was saying something, but I could barely make it out over the background noise. After a while, I just heard noise until the call eventually dropped. After that, there was a moment that seemed to stand still, but I snapped out of it when John said, "That was pretty cool." Things moved fast after that. The staff kept quitting, and in the end, there were less than a third left. Unable to continue working with such a shortage of hands, it seems the company went bankrupt 3 months after my last contact with Anderson. Anderson apparently didn't get fired due to the shortage of people, but he ended up losing his job anyway. I heard from a former colleague at the old company. Anderson can't find work now and is separating from his wife and daughter until he can find a job. It seems his domineering attitude towards his subordinates also got out to his family. I heard they might even get a divorce. Anderson seems desperate, but without having the CEO as a shirt on hold, I wonder how he's making decisions now. David, that last design was great. You're really something. Glad we hired you. It's been a year since I started working here. This company recognizes and praises me. Everyone works to lift each other up. That day, I was in despair, but I'm here now because I was let go that day. In a way, I'm thankful to the CEO of the previous company, and Anderson. I'm swamped with work I've been entrusted with, but it's a good kind of busy. Until retirement, no, as long as they'll have me, I plan to work my hardest. I work as a taxi driver. I'm divorced with no kids. I split from my ex-wife, Catherine, 20 years ago. I graduated from college and landed a corporate job. Every day I was busy expanding the customer base as a salesman. One day, during a company party, I hit it off with a woman named Catherine, who was seated next to me. I confessed my feelings. We dated for about a year and then got married. We didn't have kids, but we were a happy couple. 3 years into our marriage, there was an economic downturn everywhere. Every day, news about companies laying off their employees was all over the media. I always felt my company was immune to it, like it was someone else's problem. Then, out of the blue, my boss called me into his office and suggested I take an early retirement. You're aware our company's performance isn't great, so we've decided to reduce staff. There's a bonus for those who opt for early retirement. You're still young, you should be able to find another job. Think it over. That's all I have to say. With that, my boss left the room. I was in disbelief and couldn't come to terms with it. Why me? I was in shock and couldn't think straight. It was a layoff disguised as early retirement. Our company is small scale, and the severance package was almost negligible. When I told my wife, Catherine, she seemed shocked and worried. Wait, what? It had been our agreement that Catherine would be a stay-at-home wife after we got married. But now, the one who had asked her to stay at home had to ask her to work. It was an unexpected turn of events, and I grew more frustrated by the day. From then on, Catherine and I started arguing about money and jobs. Our once peaceful marriage became rocky. Eventually, Catherine left a divorce note and moved out. It felt like the layoff had ruined my life. Afterwards, I was so devastated that I spent my days in a state of despair in our now empty house. But I couldn't continue living that way forever. Despite my efforts to find a new job, nothing was working out. I kept getting rejected even at the initial application stage. During one job fair, a senior employee from my current company approached me. Somehow, I ended up as a taxi driver, which was fine, but maybe because I started just for a living, I wasn't putting my heart into it at first. I faced many complaints during my early days due to my attitude, but an encounter with a young girl changed my perspective. Thanks to that experience, I can now take pride in doing my job with dedication. Phew, how many rejections have I had so far? While in the cab, I let out a long sigh. It's been 3 months since I started job hunting. I've been rejected by over 30 companies. When rejection keeps piling up, it feels like society is telling you, we don't need you, and it's really weighing on me. Miss, is everything okay? Did something happen? No, actually, I poured out my frustrations to the taxi driver. Despite studying hard, I failed my university entrance exam and ended up in my second choice. The economic downturn makes job hunting tough. My parents got divorced, and it's hard to reach out to either of them. It seems like I'm always failing at something. I choked back tears as I wrapped up my story. Well, I've been there. I was laid off from my job, and things didn't work out with my wife, leading to our divorce. Finding a new job was a real challenge. Even when I got this taxi job, I wasn't passionate about it at first. I was taken by surprise when the taxi driver suddenly began speaking to me. You're about the age she would be now. She must be too. Excuse me, do you have a daughter? No, but a long time ago, I helped a little girl. It was a pitch dark night. The driver began to reminisce. He was waiting for passengers near the rotary in front of a train station when a small girl approached him. "Please, can you take me to the vet?" Perhaps because of the rain that had just stopped, she was soaking wet. She held a limp kitten in her arms. The girl handed the driver a $5 bill she had been clutching and pleaded, "Please hurry. This is all the money I have. Go quickly." The driver realized something was wrong and immediately drove her to the nearby animal hospital, where the kitten received treatment. "I hope the kitty's okay." Later, the girl's parents arrived and he learned the full story. Apparently, she had found the kitten and wanted to keep it, but her parents didn't allow it. So, she had secretly been taking care of it in a park. She had gone to check on the kitten during the heavy rain earlier and found it collapsed. "Oh no, kitty, are you okay?" According to the vet, the kitten was just malnourished and would be fine with proper feeding. "The kitty will be okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Taxi Driver. I couldn't have gone to the vet on my own." The girl's eyes sparkled as she spoke. "By the way, I'm sorry. My dad told me $5 isn't enough for a cab ride. I shouldn't have troubled you. It's okay. The important thing is the kitten's safe. You're going to keep it at home, right?" "I can't. I live in an apartment. They don't allow cats. I need to find it a home." "Oh, so the kitty doesn't have a place to stay either." It was then that the driver had an idea. Why not become the kitten's owner himself? He thought he could manage to care for a homeless cat, even if he couldn't support his wife. That incident changed the way I view my job. That girl made me realize that my job is to help people. My attitude towards work changed because of her. I owe her a lot. The taxi driver spoke with deep emotion. "Wait a minute. This story." I had been listening intently to the driver's story, my heart racing. "Your cat is a tabby with droopy eyes, right? How did you know?" Of course he'd be surprised. That makes sense. He hadn't described the cat to me. There was no way a stranger like me would know the specifics about his cat. "Well, when I found the kitten, it was about 3 months old. I took care of it in the park for about a week." "You're that little girl from back then?" "Yes, that's right." I nodded in response to the driver's words. It turned out that the drenched girl in the taxi driver's story was me. Well, that's quite the surprise. I was surprised too. Who would have thought? I discreetly peeked at the driver's face from over his shoulder. "I'm glad to hear your cat is so well. He's been healthy and cuddles with me every day." I named him Whiskers, even though he's a tabby. He has some calico patterns on him, but it's amazing to think such a little girl has grown into such a remarkable young lady. "Oh, I'm not that remarkable." Then he handed me his business card. "Here's my phone number and my email and Facebook ID. I don't think you'd have anything to chat with an old guy like me about, but if you're ever feeling down, give me a shout. I won't push for a meetup or anything, okay?" His words almost brought tears to my eyes. It had been a long time since someone had spoken to me with such warmth. Touched, I began to tear up. "Thank you. What happened? Why the tears? Did I say something wrong?" "No, I'm just grateful for your words." "I see. You've had it tough, huh?" The driver gently patted my back. I sniffled, crying even louder. "It's okay. Reach out if things get tough again." "Yes. Thank you." Holding onto his business card, I parted ways with the driver. Although I felt a bit lonely, my heart was somehow warm. Not long after, the driver sent me a picture of Whiskers. When I first found him, he was tiny enough to fit in my palm, but now, he's a big cat, weighing over 22 pounds. Even on bad days, looking at plump Whiskers photos always cheered me up. However, my job search continued to be challenging. But, for some reason, I didn't get as down as before. There are times when your hard work isn't recognized. But if you give up just because of that, it's over. I continued my job hunt with determination and also worked on my thesis. Whenever I felt disheartened, I'd message the driver on Facebook. And he'd always reply with a picture of whiskers, cheering me on with a "keep it up." But then, something happened that threw me off. "Hello, Michelle. How about moving in with me?" Why such a sudden proposal? It was a call from my mom. My dad was paying for my college tuition, and I was covering my living expenses with a part-time job and scholarships. So I thought I'd be financially stable until graduation. "You remember who raised you, right?" "I do, but I'm lost. Can you explain what's going on?" As I said that, she went on to say she's struggling financially and wants me to drop out and start working immediately. Hold on, what about Dad, who's been covering my tuition? If I drop out now, it'd be a waste of all that money, wouldn't it? But I'm out of money. I need you to help me out. I'm sorry, I have to hang up now. Wait. Unable to bear my mom's words, I quickly hung up. She called back immediately, but I ignored it. From that day, I received numerous messages and missed calls from her. But I didn't even have the strength to go through them. At that moment, a message arrived in my inbox. Oh, looking at the attached photo, I was taken aback. It was a picture of whiskers. Been a while since we talked. Everything okay? Seeing the driver's message, tears welled up in my eyes. I immediately called him to talk about my mom. "I'm sorry. I know it's your lunch break. No, I'm sorry for sending you a message during such a hard time. But you should probably keep your distance from your mom for a while. It's not right for a parent to tell their college-aged daughter to support herself." Hearing the driver's words, I quietly nodded. I decided to cut off contact with my mom until my life settled down. I explained the situation to my dad and asked him to be clear with her if she inquired about me. "If anything happens, just let me know. I think I can help talk to your mom. Thank you." From that day, I stopped communicating with my mom. After distancing myself from her, I could finally focus on my own life. My younger brother told me she kept calling him persistently, but he firmly declined her calls. After that, she stopped reaching out. I then met up with the driver and finally got to see the real whiskers. Whiskers. Upon hearing my call, it meowed and came closer to me. He's so adorable. Thinking of those times always brings a smile to my face. During those challenging job hunting days, a dream sprouted within me. I shared it with the driver. "I've found what I want to do." "Oh, that's great. What is it?" I began juggling a part-time job and attending a driving school to achieve a certain qualification. Finally, after a few years, I realized my dream. "Welcome. You might be the first female taxi driver in our company." I successfully passed the driving test and geography exam and got a job at the same taxi company where the driver worked. "I'm looking forward to working with you. I got you." I shook Ken's hand. He gently patted my head. "I have another dream. Once I get used to the job, I plan to confess my feelings to the driver. I hope someday the three of us, including Whiskers, can live together." With that thought, I smiled to myself. Hey, newcomer, stick to your job, will ya? Don't even think about coming on a trip to Guam. I, having turned 50, found myself switching careers for reasons of my own. However, at my new company's staff trip to Guam, it turned out I was the only one without a boarding pass. Set up by a younger colleague, it seems. Apparently, this junior employee thinks I'm just another rank-and-file member. It makes sense. If he knew better, he wouldn't pull such a stunt. Not realizing it could cost him his job. My name is John Smith. I'm a man nearing 50 who's had to switch careers at this age. Between moving and dealing with all sorts of paperwork, I've had quite a tiresome first week on the job. Almost a month has passed since then. I'm getting used to my new home, new environment, and the new job, and my daily life is beginning to stabilize. These past few days, while not particularly noteworthy, have brought various happenings at work. But for me, the new guy, it's been a good kind of challenge. On the whole, I'm fairly satisfied with my new life. Perhaps it's because of my age at the time of this career change, but all my seniors teaching me the ropes are younger. The workplace is vibrant with young talent. Many of them acknowledge my skills and rely on me. Determined not to be outdone by them, I've built on the experience from my previous job to do meaningful work. Yet, there's a dark cloud looming over my life. My direct manager at the new job, the department manager, is someone named Brandon. At just 32 years old, he's an elite employee who's graduated from a prestigious private university and made it to department manager. It seems his meteoric rise has become a source of pride, and he's got it out for me since I joined the company at 50 as a regular employee. He's reluctant to approve various applications, and he's always nitpicking when it comes to document approvals. Anyway, he doesn't seem to like me one bit, always rating me at rock bottom, as if an old-timer newbie like me is useless. It raises serious doubts about whether he's as capable or competent as his title suggests. His attitude is overbearing, and he's quick to lash out in anger if something doesn't suit his fancy. He probably doesn't like it when things don't go his way. It's not hard to guess that his too high pride is what's driving this behavior. He's a self-centered person, dumping unpleasant tasks on his subordinates. When it comes to taking credit for others' work, he's reputedly the best in the business. I'd heard rumors about him before, but it seems his behavior has gotten worse lately. Probably because he's got an old newbie he thinks he can push around. The volume and nature of the work I'm saddled with are such that I might as well claim the title of manager myself. As for what the actual manager is doing, it's maddening. He's not engrossed in paperwork or a computer screen, but his cell phone. When you're on your phone, what exactly are you doing, Brandon? Even when staff members implicitly call him out, he just snaps back, quiet, I'm doing research, with no sign of change. I once caught a glimpse of his phone screen, and it was showing an animation of giant robots battling. This company isn't involved in the robot industry, nor does it have anything to do with animation or screenwriting. It's not just me, other staff members are also inwardly fuming about his so-called research. At this rate, it's no surprise that his subordinates, including myself, are becoming overwhelmed with work. I find myself working overtime almost daily, starting to miss the sight of the setting sun. Yet, the manager always leaves on the dot. Leaving on time isn't bad in itself, in fact, it should be encouraged. But with Brandon, it's different. He might as well be on a day off at home for all the work he does in the office. Well, I'm heading out. Make sure you handle everything, especially you, the newbie. It's 6 p.m. It looks like he's leaving early again today. Pointing his index finger at me, he calls out my name directly. I'd normally like some help, but in his case, it's actually more efficient without him around. Yeah, okay. Neither I nor the other staff members tried to stop him from leaving. Considering he became a manager at 32, if he put in a bit more effort, further promotion wouldn't be just a dream. Unable to stand the situation any longer, I collaborated with the senior staff, other than the manager, to try and improve our workflow efficiency. We started by reducing the amount of printed materials in line with recent paperless trends. We successfully cut down on the unnecessary time spent filing and searching for filed documents. Next, we got rid of unnecessary meetings. Spending an hour just to ramble on with minor reports was a total waste. We immediately stopped that and kept it to sharing via internal emails to all members. With this approach, our work efficiency kept improving, and gradually, overtime hours began to decrease. Since I was the one who initially suggested these efficiencies, to my delight, I was thanked by my senior colleagues. But there was one person who didn't take kindly to these changes. Needless to say, it was our manager, Brandon. At first, he didn't interfere with the efficiency initiatives, but as soon as he found out I was the one behind it, he flipped like a switch and started to object. "Don't go doing things on your own. I'm sorry, but at this rate, everyone's health is going to suffer. Shut it. Working hard until you're tired, that's the point. Don't try to make it easy." He said this despite not being tired or working much himself. Resisting his bullying was tiring and a waste of time. So I just apologized without any backtalk and went back to work. It's been about a month and a half since I joined this workplace. Luckily, a company trip, which also served as my welcome party, was being arranged. The destination was Guam, and family participation was allowed upon request. "Brandon, could you please approve this? It's the application for family members to join the company trip." "Oh, all right, all right." When I handed over the documents, Brandon snatched them as if ripping them from my hands. He was looking at his cell phone again at that time. Probably he was irritated at being disturbed during his viewing. "I'll pass this on from me to the director." "Thank you." What in the world? I was surprised by Brandon's unusually swift approval. "Brandon, what? Stop staring and beat it." "Okay." He was smirking slyly at that time. The day of the company trip, I took my wife, Allie, to the gathering spot. We were supposed to meet in front of the airport gate and receive our plane tickets there. I wonder how the in-laws are doing. Amidst the bustling crowd, I asked Allie, who was carrying bags in both hands. Little do people know, my wife Allie is Nebraska's American from Guam. We met and married during my time living in Guam due to circumstances. They're fine. I got an email just the other day. Dad was the life of the village fiesta. He seemed so happy. The fiesta is a village festival often held in Guam. It's celebrated to honor the patron saints and is charming because even tourists can easily join in. That's good. They seem well. Yeah. We talked about our relatives as we headed to the gate. Most of the attendees had already gathered, and there were people from our department too. "Oh, good morning, John." The greeting came from Kylie, a senior colleague. She is an up-and-coming young employee who joined the company the year before last. "Good morning. Brandon is handling everyone's tickets." "Is that so? I'll go get them then." Brandon was at a rest area near the gate. He was still engrossed in his cell phone, watching that animated movie intently. "Good morning, Brandon." What? You're here? What do you mean, you're here?" Unfortunately, he paused the video and continued with a similar smirk to when I submitted the travel request. "I don't have tickets for you too." "What?" As I frowned, Brandon started grinning even more. "What do you mean by that?" Ellie, who had been looking forward to showing her parents her face, asked. I too looked at Brandon with the same question. "It means just what I said. A slacker and a newbie like you couldn't possibly be going." "Brandon, that's your own description." I almost retorted but held back, not wanting to cause a scene that could affect my future at the company. Besides, this was a public place. The company's name must be displayed somewhere, and I didn't want to attract negative attention. "Oops, time to board. Too bad, Mr. Newbie, since you are always slacking. Go back to the office and work in silence." Stunned, Allie and I were mocked by Brandon as he headed to the boarding gate. Left behind, Allie and me. During our discussion, I had personally suggested going to Guam. I had already taken vacation time for travel, and as Brandon said, the office would probably be closed anyway. If we forced our way in, we'd inevitably need to deal with the security company. Yeah, it makes sense to go on our own. I've already bought some souvenirs for the folks anyway. Then let's do that. I'll ask if there are any tickets available for today. I too wanted to drop by my in-laws for the first time in a while. Plus, on the second day of the planned company trip, I had important business to attend to. Brandon seemed unaware, but there was no way I could not go. After about a 10-minute wait in line, I approached the counter. "Excuse me, do you have 2 seats available for today's flight to Guam?" "Yes, let me check for you." The woman, with her posture upright and polite demeanor, started clicking away at the computer keyboard. After several clicks of the mouse, she looked up at me again. "Thank you for waiting. We do have availability, but it would be in business class." "Business class, that's going to cost a bit more." "Well, it's a vacation after all. Let's splurge a bit and thoroughly enjoy ourselves." "Yes, those seats will be fine, thank you." "Understood." Somehow, we managed to get last-minute tickets to Guam. Ellie and I then took off to Guam on the next flight. The journey in business class was many times more comfortable than I had imagined. High-quality seats that don't tire you out even after long hours. More personal space than other seats. It might have actually been better to pay for this out of pocket. "I'm sorry, I need to use the restroom real quick." "Sure." An hour and a half had passed after departure. While I was enjoying my coffee, I couldn't hold it any longer and had to get up from my seat. Following the signs, I made it to the restroom, but it was occupied. After waiting nearby for a few minutes, I heard the sound of flushing. Finally, the lock clicked open and a man came out. "I'm sorry for the wait." "Oh, John, is that you?" Jack, isn't it?" It was Jack, a junior colleague from before my job switch. Neither of us expected to meet here, and we were both surprised. "What brings you here?" "I was on vacation with my family back in Nebraska, and now I'm heading back to Guam for work." "Is that right? I'm on vacation too. I thought I'd drop by my wife's family. I just moved to Nebraska not too long ago myself." "Oh, you're on vacation. I heard from my dad that you were coming to Guam for a company trip." "Yeah, you heard about that." Actually, Jack is the son of the owner of the company I used to work for in Guam. I had a good relationship with him, and naturally, with his father as well. The president of that company and my current workplace had connections, which is how I got called over to Nebraska. It wasn't really something to hide, so I explained the situation to Jack. "Haha, it sounds like you're in quite the situation. Come on, it's not funny, really." My apologies. But as for this so-called manager Brandon, who knows what will happen with him?" "Haha, indeed." Jack burst into laughter after hearing about Brandon, probably because he knows what I was called to Nebraska. I mean, why I was called over here. "Hey, what about the social gathering? Wasn't it scheduled for the second day of the company trip?" "Well, what to do? Because of Brandon, I'm supposed to be on vacation right now." "Well, what to do now?" "Oops, I came here to use the restroom." "Oh, I'm sorry for holding you up. I'll just take care of business and think about this issue later." Still, without a solution, the plane landed at Guam's airport. There I was, waiting for our luggage to come out on the conveyor belt with Allie and Jack, when... "Hey, isn't that John? Did you come all this way at your own expense?" "Poor guy. Thanks for that." He was still at the airport. "Huh?" His usual condescending attitude was especially annoying today. "Well, your hotel and meals aren't arranged, so you better take care of it yourself." After getting his piece said, Brandon went back to the other employees, laughing loudly. Jack, who was nearby, was desperately trying to hold back his laughter. Though it wasn't a laughing matter. After collecting our luggage and talking with Jack for about 30 minutes, Ellie's uncle came to pick us up in his car. It was time to say goodbye to Jack for now. See you later. If you want, the four of us, including your wife, should grab a meal together. That sounds good. How about tomorrow evening? Sure. I waved one last time and got into the car. The destination was Ellie's family home. That night, relatives gathered for a garden party in her honor. It's only been a month and a half, but it seems lonely for them that their daughter crosses borders and is away. Both my father-in-law and mother-in-law were overjoyed to reunite with Ellie. Oh, delicious. It's definitely that taste. You've got beer in Nebraska, haven't you? While the three of them were having a great time, I shared a beer with Ellie's brother. Well, they do, but it just doesn't suit my taste. Maybe because I've lived here so long. Is that so? Feel free to take some beer from our house if you'd like. Really? Jer, of course, but watch the quantity. You'll be charged if you go over the limit. Got it. As the conversation and drinks flowed, I was finally getting tipsy. It's the best time at any party. But then, a sound cut through those moments. Huh? A phone call. When I took out the cell phone from my right pocket, the screen shows Manager Brandon. I answered, though I wasn't feeling up for it. Hello, this is John. Hey you, where are you? Get over to the Elaine Hotel now. His tone was so fierce that I instinctively pulled the phone away from my ear. Why? What do you mean why? Just get over here. I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to decline. Decline? What are you planning? Weren't you the one who marked us as not attending the trip, Brandon? I'm on vacation now, so please excuse me. Hey, he was about to say more, but I forcibly ended the call, not wanting any more interruptions. He called back several times after that. It was so persistent that I had to set my phone to reject his calls. Forgetting all about that, I was enjoying myself when my pocket buzzed again. I was about to ignore it, but then I remembered I'd set Brandon to be blocked, so I checked the screen. Huh? It was President Riley on the display. Asher Riley. The president of the company where I had been recruited, a friend of the president of the company where Jack works. He liked the work I had done in Guam and headhunted me. He's 70 years old and thinking about retiring soon. Hello, this is John. It's Riley. I heard from Brandon that you were on a break. I'm sorry. I was supposed to join the company trip, but due to a scheme by Brandon, Ellie and I were made non-participants. I'm here in Guam on personal business. Right now, we're having a party at Ellie's folks' place. I've explained everything that happened. Is that so? I'm sorry. I've caused you trouble. No, President Riley. You haven't done anything. For now, we'll just stay at my wife's family home today. All right, that's fine. I'll make sure to show up at the networking event, so I'll see you tomorrow. I'll be waiting. Do you know the time and place? Yes, I'm aware. Good, then, I'm counting on you for tomorrow. It's a very important introduction. Understood. After a few more pleasantries, the call ended. Whew, who would have thought this would be how Brandon's actions would come to the president's attention? The next day, Ellie and I met up with the Jack and his wife in front of the park. We took a taxi to our intended hotel. Well, this is impressive. Guam, a tourist destination, is visited by all sorts of people. From tycoons and celebrities to the average Joe, everyone has their own style. This hotel, seemingly built for tycoons, was dazzling everywhere you looked. Expensive-looking art was nonchalantly on display. Everything from the people's demeanor to the furniture was exquisite. We have a dinner reservation here, so it should be a good warm-up for the important networking event. That's for sure. We have 2 hours until the networking event. There is plenty of time to have a leisurely meal before heading to the top floor, the venue for the event. After enjoying a sumptuous meal, we took the elevator to the top floor. The food was outstanding and made for a great memory. How nice it would have been to share this meal with the senior colleagues from the same department. It's about time, huh, John? Yeah. Hey, I'm getting nervous despite my age. It can't be helped. After all, John, you're the next. The bell chimed, announcing our arrival at the top floor. As the doors opened, the buzz of employees' voices could be heard. Finally arrived, John. Brandon, a man completely out of place in the upscale hotel atmosphere, charged towards us, yelling, "You! How dare you hang up on me yesterday?" Brandon's face contorted like a demon's. He was so furious that half of his words were unintelligible. I was on vacation, after all. Don't talk back to me, and what's with that attitude? Is that how you address your superior, huh? Regardless of my response, Brandon kept on ranting. Unbeknownst to the excited Brandon, the other employees were looking on with disapproval. Because of you not being there, I got chewed out. How are you going to take responsibility if this affects my promotion? Haha, Brandon, was it? Why don't you stop making a scene in such a beautiful place? Haha, oh man, that's hilarious. Jack finally lost his patience. He laughed at Brandon in fluent Nebraskese. Shut up, and who are you anyway? Outsiders should stay quiet. Look, there's that shouting. Hey, Jack, it's not just the noise. The women are getting intimidated. Shut up, I said. When Jack opened his mouth, Brandon, the manager, repeatedly stamped his right foot on the floor. He looked just like a child throwing a tantrum because he couldn't get the toy he wanted. Listen up, John, if you even scratch my path to promotion, when that happens. Brandon, while repeatedly jabbing his index finger into my face, spat out his grievances. Then, there it was. So here you were, John. A quiet yet firm voice came from behind Brandon. The president. It was President Riley. Realizing he had been seen at a bad moment, Brandon quickly straightened up and put on a smile. Good evening, Mr. President. I'm really sorry about yesterday. No, I'm the one who should apologize. Besides, I appreciate you coming here today, even though it's a holiday. You are our company's. Without even glancing at the standing Brandon, President Riley paused a bit before continuing. Next president. What? Next president? When the current president informed me of this, the strength drained from Brandon's shoulders. Not understanding what was happening, I was just stunned. Brandon. Yes, sir. Don't worry, you won't be promoted. With just those words, President Riley walked towards the venue. The four of us followed him into the event. As if the earlier commotion was a lie, the manager had become quiet. He just opened and closed his mouth without being able to say a word. The social gathering began. Company executives gave their speeches one by one, and then it was the current president's turn. I felt my nerves growing. It's finally time. Yeah. Ellie, seated to my left, must have sensed my tension and whispered to me. I hope she'll forgive my curt reply. Ladies and gentlemen of our company, today, all the way here in Guam, President Riley started his introduction, but I wasn't calm enough to listen. And finally, the time came. Therefore, I, Asher Riley, will step down from the presidency and watch over the company as chairman. A mix of gasps and applause followed. When it quieted down a bit, Chairman Riley continued. The new president to succeed me has already been decided. Please step up, John Smith. Yes, I replied with a strong and dignified voice. I was worried whether my walk seemed too stiff. John, please, say a word. I was handed the microphone. I stood to the right of the chairman and looked over the assembled employees. Good. They seemed to be accepting it. Although I noticed an exception sitting alone at a corner table, I focused forward and spoke of the future. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm John Smith. I've been given the honor of succeeding President Riley as the new CEO. My commitment is to the continued growth and advancement of our company. I'm looking forward to working with all of you. Applause filled the room. Even I was surprised. I hadn't expected such a warm welcome. Just a month and a half ago, a 50-year-old guy switches jobs, and suddenly, he's the new CEO. Only the higher-ups knew that I was originally called from Guam to Nebraska as the next in line for the presidency. Thank you, Mr. President. I look forward to making the company thrive with you. And now, yes, the chairman's speech seemed to be continuing. I inadvertently let out a sound, as the turn of events was different from our meeting. Times like these call for some tough talk, but we don't need people who hinder our progress. Those who drag the rest of us down. I'll be issuing some directives once we're back from this trip, so for now, just enjoy the journey. That's all. I bowed with the chairman to everyone present and descended the steps. During that moment, I saw Brandon pressing his right hand against his forehead, trembling. Due to my parents' work, I'd mostly lived abroad. I spent up until middle school in China, then went to the US for further studies, graduating from both high school and college there. My language skills landed me a job at a Nebraska's company in the States. My sales were always top-notch, leveraging my bilingual advantage. I was even asked to host seminars to boost sales. That's when Mr. Riley approached me a few months back. Mr. Asher Riley, the president of a Nebraska's company, is a childhood friend of the president of Guam. He is now 70 years old, and I heard that he's been thinking about retiring soon. However, he seems to be in trouble because he hasn't found a successor yet. That's why I was recommended as the successor to President Riley. Even if I'm suddenly told to take over as president, I don't know much about the company's internal affairs. Besides, the pressure is immense. Because of that, I made it a condition to spend about 1 to 2 months as an ordinary employee. President Riley willingly accepted this, and with my agreement, the job change was finalized. Looking back, I believe it was the right decision. Thanks to that, I was able to single out people like Brandon. The night before the social gathering, President Riley called me and I reported on Brandon. When he summoned him and asked why I was not there, he just kept making excuses that suited him. This infuriated President Riley, but at the same time, Brandon was also angry at me, trying to shift the blame. There's no reason for me to be scolded, though. Well, anyway, it seems that he had already decided what to do with Brandon at that time. Not only this time, but there had been complaints about Brandon from the employees for a long time. In addition, I consulted with the current chairman about the odd figures reported by Brandon. It's a crucial part of the company's revenue, so as the new president, I can't overlook it. I asked some employees who remained in Nebraska to investigate Brandon. As a result, evidence of misconduct was found one after another. It seems he had been embezzling funds over the past few years. Of course, Brandon, who had been repeating such acts, was fired. Just as the chairman had told me, the official notice came right after I returned from my trip to Guam. Words like hindering progress and pulling everyone's leg were all aimed at him. After that, it became a matter for the lawyers to handle. If he was pocketing company money, that's a serious offense. He needs to pay for what he's done. Neither the chairman, myself, nor the rest of the employees work for charity. It's been half a year since I took over as president. The immediate goals are to reduce overtime and increase productivity. I encouraged spreading the practices I had been doing in the department when I first joined to the entire company. I also actively introduced flex time and remote work. Creating an environment where everyone can work comfortably was my first job as president. This system reform has been well received, and I've been getting various suggestions from the employees. President Smith: "Oh, Kylie, what can I do for you? We were discussing in the department, and we thought using chat for internal communication would be good. It's more casual and smooth for checking." Chat: "Yeah, that might be convenient. I'll bring it up at the next executive meeting." Thank you very much. I'm counting on you. The reason for an environment where it's easy to consult, regardless of place or time, is because I dislike sitting up high. I made it a point to spend lunchtime with the employees as much as possible and always have a smile on my face. It seems to be having a good effect. The free working style I learned at the company in Guam. The diligent working attitude I learned at the Nebraska's company. By striking a good balance between these two elements, the company's productivity has been on the rise. Watching the state of the company, the chairman looks pleased. He's completely at ease now and has gone off on a trip around the world. It seems he's really enjoying his retirement. The monthly web regular meeting, conducted by the chairman, myself, and Jack, who recently took over as president in Guam, broadcasts his adventures. After a good laugh, we get down to business. I've started to look forward to this rhythm too. A workplace with good vibes. A workplace with clear boundaries. A stress-free workplace. And a workplace where no one is singled out. It's tough to sum up what makes a great workplace in just one sentence. Yet, I plan to listen to the employees and turn each ideal into reality. It's these efforts that I believe will improve the company. And it's with this belief that I aim to reach even greater heights.